Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We have got something incredibly fascinating lined up for you today. We're going to dive deep into a profound critique of our modern technological reality, framed around the PINE+RAIN Studio, a digital manifesto for creators. If you make things for a living, or, even if you just do it for the pure joy of it, this manifesto is basically a massive, urgent digital wake-up call. So, let me ask you, are you a creator or just a tenant on a server farm? Ouch, right? That question hits pretty hard. I mean, we all love to think of ourselves as independent artists, coders, writers, thinkers, but this manifesto makes a bold argument. It says that over the last few decades, we have quietly, almost invisibly, traded our digital sovereignty for convenience. We've gone from a society that actually owns and masters its tools to a society that is utterly, completely dependent on platforms.
Part 1, the death of local computing.
To really understand where we are right now, we have to look at where we came from. Let's trace how we lost our grip on our own digital environments and slipped into this reality of digital tenancy. Think back to the 1990s. Back then, a personal computer was like a self-contained island of personal agency. It was offline, you actually owned the hardware, and if you wanted to, you could open it right up and upgrade it yourself. Remember saving your work on a physical floppy disk, or buying software in a shrink-wrapped box at the store, or listening to MP3s on local players like Winamp instead of streaming everything from the cloud. If the internet went down, no big deal. You could still write your novel or balance your spreadsheet. But today we use what are essentially thin clients. Think of a Chromebook or any cloud-based app. They are totally cloud-dependent, they're sealed shut, and they are entirely rented. You aren't really using your own hardware anymore. You're just renting a tiny little slice of a massive remote server farm. And if that provider decides to cut your access, poof, your capability vanishes in a single keystroke. And it isn't just the hardware. Software as a service, or SaaS, creates this permanent financial tether. Remember buying the Adobe Creative Suite on a CD-ROM? You bought it once, and you owned that specific version forever. Now we lease our tools. We pay a monthly subscription. And that means the absolute second you stop paying your digital landlord, you don't just lose the ability to make new things. You often lose access to your own past work. Why? Because it's locked up in proprietary cloud formats. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive shift in power it maps out. We went from perpetual buy-it-once licenses to renting forever. We moved from keeping our private thoughts strictly on local hard drives to generating data that is continuously harvested. But the absolutely crucial shift here is that bottom one. The power has shifted entirely from the decentralized personal computer sitting right there on your desk to the highly centralized data center owned by massive global conglomerates. We literally gave up our autonomy for the convenience of autosaving to the cloud, and in doing so, we just handed over the keys to our digital lives. And that brings us to a really insidious concept the manifesto calls the virtualized handcuff. It's literally being built into our everyday physical objects. Let's say you go to the store and buy a brand new smart fridge. Well, guess what? You only own the physical metal box. You are simply renting the software that makes it functional. If the manufacturer goes bankrupt tomorrow, or if they just arbitrarily decide to discontinue support, your wildly expensive appliance can be bricked remotely. It becomes completely useless. We've somehow just accepted this with the Internet of Things, and we've totally accepted it with our creative tools.
Part 2, AI, the watershed moment.
So, if cloud computing was the slow, gradual erosion of our independence, the manifesto argues that artificial intelligence is a massive, sudden tidal wave. AI isn't just some cool new feature. It's described here as the ultimate weapon of digital enclosure. And the crucial thing to understand is how this technology is actually built. The manifesto breaks down a grim cycle. They call it the Great Plagiarism, or the feedback loop of displacement. Here's how it works. Step 1. These systems harvest billions of lines of human-written code, prose, and art, basically the entire global commons of human creativity. Step 2. They use all that harvested data to train large language models. Step 3. The tech companies turn around and sell these models back to businesses. And Step 4. Those businesses use the models to replace the original entry-level coders, writers, and artists. It's wild when you think about it. The creator's own past labor is literally extracted and then repurposed as the weapon for their future termination. It is a breathtaking cycle of capitalist enclosure. And who exactly controls this loop? Well, it's governed by something called the compute divide. Now, you might be thinking, but wait, what about open source AI? And yeah, it's true. Open source absolutely exists. But the frontier models, the ones with actual world-altering power, those require billions of dollars and specialized hardware and energy just to train. This unbelievably high barrier to entry ensures that the digital means of production are concentrated in the hands of just 3 or 4 global conglomerates. Talk about the ultimate centralization of power. But here's the thing. The economic threat? That is only half the story. The Manifesto also warns of something called cognitive atrophy. You see, the ancient Greeks had this word, techne, which basically meant craft or skill, the deep, intimate understanding of how to make something. When we outsource the actual writing, the coding, the critical decision-making to AI, we automate the how, and by automating the how, we lose the why. I mean, if you can generate a visual masterpiece without knowing how to mix paint or hold a brush, that profound ancient relationship between human effort and human meaning is completely severed. We devolve from true creators into mere prompt engineers.
Part 3. Beware the machine heart.
Let's just slow down for a second. The Manifesto shifts gears here. We move away from the economic and practical realities and into the profound spiritual crisis that this technology creates. And it explores this through the incredibly insightful lens of Eastern philosophy. Take this story from the Zhangzi, a foundational Taoist text. It's about a farmer who flat out refuses to use a new labor-saving mechanical well sweep. Why? Because as he says, he who has a machine-like device will develop a machine-like heart. That is so powerful. That farmer understood thousands of years ago what we are just starting to realize right now. When you constantly surround yourself with artificial cleverness and mechanical optimization, it actually changes your internal nature. It distances you from the direct, grounded, messy experience of doing the work yourself. And this introduces the beautiful Taoist concept of Ziran, which roughly translates to natural spontaneity, or things acting in accordance with their own true nature. Our modern ecosystem of clouds, algorithms, and AI is literally the exact opposite of Ziran. It is rigid, calculated, and completely artificial. The argument here is that by constantly relying on AI to think for us, to generate our emails, to plan our days, we lose our connection to the way, the Tao. Human intuition is supposed to be free-flowing and deeply felt, but algorithmic prediction, it's structured, rigid, and purely mechanical. And eventually, our inner lives become just as rigid and mechanical as the tools we're using. And it's definitely not just Taoism sounding the alarm here. Other major philosophical traditions echo this exact same warning. Martin Heidegger warned of enframing, which is this idea that modern technology turns humans into a standing reserve of resources. Basically, we just become mere data points waiting to be optimized by an algorithm. Then there's the Confucian perspective. Confucianism heavily relies on Li, meaning ritual and self-cultivation. But think about it. If your capability is entirely rented from a cloud provider, true self-cultivation is impossible. You can't develop moral agency if an AI is constantly dictating and mediating your social interactions. And finally, we have the legalist perspective. Ancient legalism was all about absolute state control. Well, the modern cloud and AI infrastructure is basically a legalist dream come true. It demands total transparency from the everyday citizen, while the algorithmic ruler, operating inside a totally opaque black box, remains completely hidden. There is literally no private space left.
Part 4. Reclaiming your digital autonomy.
Okay, I know all of that sounds incredibly heavy. But listen, this manifesto isn't just an exercise in existential dread. It's a rallying cry. So how do we actually escape this digital feudal state? How do we stop being serfs on a server farm? The solution lies in very specific practical countermovements. Number 1, adopt local-first software. Go out of your way to seek out programs that live entirely on your own hard drive, where you actually own your files in standard open formats that do not require a monthly subscription just to open them. Number 2, champion the right to repair. Support legislation and companies that allow you to open up your hardware, fix it yourself, and own it entirely without the constant threat of a manufacturer bricking it from afar. And number 3, support sovereign AI. Look, if you absolutely must use AI, push for models that you can run locally on your own machine. Stop sending your private thoughts and sensitive data up to some corporate oracle in the cloud. Make no mistake, these are modern acts of rebellion. Which leaves us with the ultimate question of today's explainer. Will you reclaim your tools or surrender your craft? Every single time we choose a rented platform over a locally owned tool, we are making a distinct choice about our autonomy. We are actively choosing between the convenience of the machine heart and the profound, deeply human experience of genuine creation. Think about the tools you use every single day. Are they empowering your independence, or are they enforcing your tenancy? Keep that in mind the next time you sit down to create. Thanks for joining us.